Hello MouseWorks fans, and welcome back. For this episode I'm going to be reviewing different kinds of cement for plastic model kits, mainly for styrene, and I'll be going over the differences in the different types of cement and what to use them for and what different manufacturers there are out there. So without any further ado, let's get into it. Alright, so you can see I've got quite a few different types of cement here, and they each have their own capabilities and their own problems. So when I build a model, I actually end up using quite a few different types depending on what I'm doing. So we'll go from basically the slowest, which is on this side here, to the fastest, which is on this side here. And I'll take each one and go through each one and what it's used for. This first one here is actually made by Model Master, and it is unfortunately been discontinued from Model Master. But they do still make it under the Testers line. It has a red label. The only problem is it has a plastic nozzle. This one was really nice because it had a metal needle on it. There is one of these that's made by Werx of Germany, called Contacta cement. Same stuff with the metal nozzle. So that's nice because you can clean out with this little wire. Don't have to worry about it getting ruined. So anyways, this is the slowest stuff. The next up is Tamiya's orange label cement, and what this is, it's a liquid or a more liquid version of this, so it flows a little bit better. It does have a little brush in there. It's medium viscosity. This is made to actually glue two pieces together before assembly. It takes long enough to dry that you can actually put the two pieces together after you put the glue on each piece, and then works basically like the old tube type cement, which I do not recommend. The next up is the Tamiya Extra Thin in the dark green bottle top. And what this is good for, this one's fairly fast, but this one is fast enough that you do have to use it as a welder. You'll hear that term of a plastic welder. The pieces actually have to be together, and then you run this little brush down the actual seam of the item, and then it will actually weld it together as you put the glue on. If you try putting this on two pieces, by the time you put them together, it's going to be evaporated and it will not stick unless you put a ton of it on there, but then you're going to make a heck of a mess. So the next one here is the same company, Tamiya. This is their Extra Thin Quick Set. Basically the same idea as this stuff, but it is actually a lot faster working, and doesn't give you as much time to move an item once it's glued. Next one here is actually made by MIG Ammo. There is clear versions of this. This is one of the ones with dye. They make the blue, they make a red, which is kind of neat. When you actually glue stuff, you can see where it actually was placed and see how far the glue tracked. This is pretty darn quick. It's a little bit faster than the Tamiya Quick Set, and like I said, its advantages are A, that it's got the color tracer on it. The other advantage is the brush on it is much longer than the Tamiya, so you can see how long it is and how thin it is. Get in a lot more areas and a lot finer places. The Tamiya, you can see it's much shorter and a little bit thicker. This is the fastest of them all. This is by Gunze. It's Mr. Hobby, Mr. Cement SP, and this is the B version, which means it's got black dye in it. Kind of works like this stuff with the coloring on it. Shows you where it goes, and it gives you a little black outline. This is super fast. This is almost like a super glue, so you got to be very careful with this, but it actually is pretty handy sometimes. So now I will go through exactly what types of parts I will use these different glues on my demo model. Okay, so the first up is the Testers Model Master glue. Again, it's similar to the Contacta from Werx of Germany, and similar to their red labeled bottle, which has just the plastic applicator. So this stuff that I use for basically any of this stuff I want a lot of strength on. So for example, when I'm doing the actual chassis and I'm going to be attaching the large pieces. You can see how far I'm going to have to go around with the glue to cover all the surfaces. By the time I get all the way around here, most glues will be evaporated or dried up here. So this will give me more time. Plus it's a little thicker. I can get it in these posts and control it a little bit better. So that's going to be for strength and a long time application. The next up is going to be the Tamiya regular orange top cement, liquid cement. And for this, I would use it for some of the parts that basically don't have to have a lot of time, but have to have a little more time, or have to put two parts together after gluing. So for example, if I was doing some of these sprocket pieces here, some of the wheels, I would actually use this because it does give me some time to line up the wheel where I want it before it actually sets in. So it gives me a little more time. It's still pretty quick, very, very strong once it's done. Don't need much of it. Its brush is a little bigger than most of the others too. It's quite a bit bigger. So, but for most of your basic building, if you're just going to be building something that you haven't been into building before, or you're a new person into the hobby, I would suggest this one. Okay, next one, this stuff here, the extra thin. This is a very good multi-purpose. This will work on almost any of these small parts. One of the advantages to this is if you have a piece of armor, for example, that is tracked by link track, this will actually glue the tracks together and give you enough time to actually bend them around all your wheels. So for example, if you did a long run of it and you actually needed to bend it up over this, you give it maybe 3 minutes or so, 3 to 5 minutes, and it will be strong enough that the track links will hold together, but it does allow you to actually bend it around some of these pieces and it'll still hold together. This stuff is next. This is the Tamiya extra thin quick setting. Now this stuff, you cannot use it on the tracks unless the tracks are in place. It has a faster set time between basically not being held together and being completely held together and too strong. So what will happen is your time to move, say, the track around here, you're not going to have that much time, and what's going to happen is it's going to be too dry and you're going to break the links off of each other and tear them apart, or it's not going to be dry enough and they'll just fall apart. What this is for is doing very small details where you actually put the piece in place and then just touch it and let it flow in there, and it'll fuse it pretty darn quick. Still gives you a little bit of time to move something around, probably 10-15 seconds to do that before it'll start to tack up and hold the part together. Okay, next up is the ammo cement. This stuff is really, really fast. So this is basically, you can kind of see I used it here. You basically want it where you have the piece in and you know exactly where it is. You're not going to want to move it. So if the piece snaps in or fits snugly enough, you can just hit it with this stuff. It will track where it goes, so that way you're not spreading a whole bunch of glue and getting too much around your model when you don't know where it goes when it's transparent. So basically when you touch a piece, capillary action will zoom it around and you'll actually be able to see where it goes, so you don't have to re-glue that area. And it means using a lot less glue, but very strong once it's done. Very quick, very strong, almost close to a super glue. Next up is the Mr. Hobby Mr. Cement SPB. This stuff is like super glue. You can see I hit it on a couple of these grab irons here. So the grab irons, basically I tacked them with this just to get them to hold onto the model itself. When I got them in place where I wanted them, I just touch them with this. It tracks a little bit of the black around. Again, you can see where it goes, but it's almost instantaneous. This stuff is really fast. Does not give you any time to move the parts around, but allows you to just keep building and building and not have to worry about parts being too soft and accidentally hitting them with your fingers and knocking them off or bending them over. So anyways, that is about it, besides going into super glues, which will be a whole nother video. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe and ring the bell so you get all my updates. And I hope this was helpful for you. And as always, keep on building.